The morning rush at the small airport cafe had barely begun when Olivia Harper tied her apron and took a deep breath. Her feet already ached from the early shift, and her hands were rough from constant scrubbing of coffee machines and dishes. She glanced at the clock, 7:42 a.m., and wiped her brow with the back of her hand. She moved behind the counter, the scent of fresh coffee swirling around her like a familiar lullaby. Olivia, now 28, had worked this job for nearly 3 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it put food on the table and paid rent for the modest apartment she shared with her 5-year-old son, Jamie. He was her light, her reason to keep going. "Large cappuccino, no sugar," a voice called out. Olivia smiled, already halfway through making it. She had memorized the regulars. But as she handed the cup over and looked up, her breath caught. Across the terminal near Gate 18, a man sat alone with a laptop and a black leather duffel bag at his feet. She froze. Her heart skipped a beat, then raced. Lucas Bennett, her first love. He was staring at his screen, fingers paused mid-typing. His hair was neatly styled, his suit crisp, his presence commanding, but she would have recognized him anywhere, even after a decade. He had been the boy who made her laugh on rainy days, who read poetry in a terrible British accent, who once stayed up all night just to walk her home. Lucas had been the entire sky of her youth. Olivia's instinct was to look away. Her hand shot up to tuck a stray strand behind her ear, only to remember her hair was in a messy bun. Her uniform was wrinkled from the morning rush, with faint coffee stains on the hem of her apron. She looked down at her worn sneakers. Maybe if she kept her distance, he wouldn't recognize her. 10 years had passed. People change. She surely had. She turned quickly, pretending to clean the counter, her heart thudding. What would he think if he saw her like this? A single mom barely scraping by in a faded uniform. But fate had other plans. An elderly man near the boarding area dropped his canvas tote bag, its contents, magazines, a pill bottle, snacks, scattered across the floor. Olivia didn't hesitate. She rushed over and knelt beside him. "Here, let me help you," she said gently, gathering the items and slipping them back into the bag. And that was the moment. As she looked up to hand the man his things, her eyes met Lucas's. Time froze. Lucas blinked. His hands dropped from the keyboard. The terminal noise faded as his gaze locked on hers. That face. Those eyes. He would never forget them. For 10 years, he had carried that image. The eyes that lit up when she spoke of dreams. The quiet strength they held when life got hard. And here they were again, still familiar, now heavier. "Olivia," he whispered, barely audible. But she was already standing, her heart pounding, avoiding his gaze. She nodded to the old man and turned away, walking briskly back toward the cafe, her hands trembling. Behind her, Lucas remained frozen, his laptop forgotten. He remembered it all, the summer nights on campus, the tears, the laughter, the dreams they built together. She had been his anchor when he nearly flunked freshman year. His parents never approved of her. They said she lacked ambition, that she came from the wrong kind of family. He had fought them, but when the scholarship to study overseas came, he had no choice. He left. No goodbye, just gone. She waited. He never wrote. Eventually, she stopped hoping. That summer, Olivia cried until her chest ached. Then, little by little, she learned to live without him. And now, 10 years later, same airport, same city, different lives. And yet, in a single glance, everything they had buried rushed back, unspoken, unfinished, undeniable. Lucas took a slow breath, then stepped toward the cafe. He found Olivia behind the counter wiping down a tray, her expression tired but focused. She looked up and saw him. For a moment, neither of them said a word. "Hi," he said gently. Olivia nodded. Hi. I was hoping we could talk if you have a minute. She glanced around. I'm on break in 10. They sat at a small table near the window, away from the noise of travelers rushing past. The tension between them was clear, but there was something softer beneath it. A quiet familiarity. A shared history that neither had forgotten. It's really been 10 years, Lucas said. It has, Olivia replied, her voice low. He studied her face. She looked older, worn in ways that spoke of struggle, but stronger, too, like someone who had endured more than most and kept standing. So, how have you been? He asked. Olivia hesitated, then took a sip of her lukewarm coffee. I have a son, Jamie. He's 5. It's just the two of us. Lucas blinked. You're a mom? She nodded. Yeah. I work here in the mornings, clean offices at night. It's not easy, but we manage. There was no resentment in her voice, only quiet acceptance. She didn't mention Jamie's father, and Lucas didn't press. I'm not surprised you're still standing, he said. You were always the strongest person I knew. She looked down, unsure how to take the compliment. Lucas wanted to ask more, but something stopped him. Instead, he noticed her attention shift when an older man near the terminal stumbled, dropping a plastic bag. Olivia stood up quickly, walked over, and knelt to help him. She handed him the items with a kind smile, then opened her lunch container and gave him half of her sandwich. Lucas watched from the window. From the way she tucked her meal away afterward, he guessed it might have been all she had. When she returned, he said nothing, but something in him shifted. You haven't changed, he said. You still think of others before yourself. I don't know how else to be, she replied with a small smile. A few minutes later, Lucas checked his phone. His flight was boarding. I have to go, he said, standing reluctantly. Of course, Olivia said, her voice calm. He paused. Can I give you my card? Just in case. She nodded and took it without a word. As he walked away, he turned once more. She was already behind the counter again, tying her apron, fading back into the background. But she didn't fade from his mind. Days passed. Olivia returned to her routine. Work, Jamie, sleep, repeat. Then came a knock on the door. Her landlord stood with a scowl. You're behind again. I can't wait any longer. You need to be out by tomorrow. Please, Olivia begged. I just need a few more days. He shook his head. I've given you too many chances. When the door slammed shut, Olivia leaned against it, tears welling in her eyes. She looked over at Jamie, playing quietly with his worn coloring book. That night, she sat at the edge of their small bed, trying to stay strong. Then her phone buzzed. Lucas Bennett, I've been thinking about you and Jamie. I know it's sudden, but are you okay? She stared at the message for a long time, unsure how to respond. The next morning, Olivia and Jamie stood on the sidewalk with a single suitcase and his stuffed rabbit. Her heart felt heavy, but she had no choice. A black SUV pulled up, the window rolled down, and Lucas stepped out. He saw the bags, Jamie clutching her hand, the quiet panic in her eyes. Come stay with me, he said. Just for a few days, until you figure things out. I'm not offering charity, just help from a friend. Olivia looked at Jamie, then at the sidewalk beneath her feet. Her pride wavered, but her son came first. She nodded slowly. Just for a few days, she whispered. Lucas smiled. That's all I ask. And together, they got into the car, not knowing what would come next, only that they didn't have to face it alone. The first morning at Lucas's house was quiet, almost too quiet for Olivia. She had barely slept the night before, too tense in the guest room with Jamie curled beside her. The house was beautiful. Modern, yet warm, with sunlight pouring in through tall windows. It felt like another world. She kept waiting for someone to tell her she didn't belong. But by 6 a.m., Olivia was in the kitchen, her sleeves rolled up, quietly making scrambled eggs and toast. She moved carefully, trying not to wake anyone, but still making enough for 3. Old habits, she supposed. Lucas came down the stairs a bit later, surprised to find her already cooking. "I hope you don't mind," she said quickly, brushing flour from her hands. "Jamie's used to breakfast first thing." "I don't mind at all," he replied, smiling. "Smells better than anything I've made in weeks." As the days passed, Lucas watched the rhythms of Olivia's life unfold in his home. She rose early, packed snacks for Jamie, did laundry with music playing softly in the background, and read bedtime stories with voices and sound effects that made Jamie giggle uncontrollably. He noticed how she taught Jamie to write his name with such patience. How she praised his drawings as if they were museum-worthy. How when she thought no one was looking, she closed her eyes for just a second longer, exhausted but holding everything together. Jamie, meanwhile, had taken a strong liking to Lucas. He followed him around the house, peppering him with questions. "Do you really have 100 people working for you? What's a CEO? Can I be one if I still sleep with my dinosaur?" Lucas answered every question like it was the most important one in the world. To Olivia's surprise, Lucas did not just let them stay. He quietly made their stay easier. One afternoon, she returned from a walk with Jamie to find the guest room rearranged. A small shelf now held children's books. A soft lamp glowed in the corner. In the kitchen, there was almond milk for Jamie and vegetarian dishes Olivia hadn't even mentioned she liked. She stared at the new additions, speechless. He never brought it up. He just did it. One evening, as the autumn wind picked up outside, Jamie grew quiet during dinner. His cheeks were flushed, and Olivia immediately knew something was wrong. By midnight, he was burning with fever. Olivia panicked. She paced the hallway, pressed wet cloths to Jamie's forehead, whispering soothing words through trembling lips. Lucas was there in an instant. He sat beside her on the bed, checking Jamie's temperature, calling the family doctor, reassuring her with quiet confidence. "It's going to be okay," he said. "We'll take care of him together." Together. That word wrapped around her like a blanket. All night they took turns changing the cloths, keeping Jamie hydrated, whispering stories to calm him. Olivia's heart pounded with fear, but Lucas never left her side. By dawn, Jamie's fever finally broke. The little boy drifted into a deep sleep, his chest rising and falling peacefully. Olivia sat beside the bed, her hair messy, her eyes swollen from worry. Her hands were still holding a damp cloth when she turned to Lucas. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice raw. "For being here when I was scared the most." Lucas looked at her, and something shifted in his chest. It wasn't just gratitude in her voice. It was trust. And in her eyes, he saw the Olivia he had once loved, only now stronger, fiercer, weathered by life, but unbroken. He realized then that it had never really faded. Not the way she made him feel, not the way she saw the world, and especially not the way she held her child with every ounce of love she had. He had left once, but now, sitting in the quiet of the early morning light, he knew he did not want to leave again. The weekend brought a softness to the air, the kind that made everything feel lighter. Lucas suggested a small picnic, something simple and outdoors. Olivia hesitated at first, unsure if it was too much or too soon. But Jamie's eyes lit up at the idea, and that was all the convincing she needed. They drove out to a quiet park beyond the city. The leaves had begun to turn, fluttering gently from the trees as if nature itself was slowing down to take a breath. Lucas laid out a blanket while Olivia unpacked sandwiches, fruit, and cookies Jamie had picked out. Jamie ran ahead, chasing leaves and pretending he was a superhero. Olivia sat at the edge of the blanket, her legs crossed, her hair blowing gently in the wind. Lucas sat beside her, close but not too close. There was a calm between them that felt earned, fragile yet natural. After they ate, Jamie pulled something from his little backpack. It was a folded piece of paper with crayon marks peeking out the sides. "I made this," he said, holding it out to Lucas with pride. Lucas took it carefully and opened it. The drawing was simple. 3 stick figures under a bright yellow sun, one tall, one with long hair, and one small, all holding hands. Above them were words written in blocky letters, "Mommy, me, and my CEO dad." Lucas looked up, surprised. Olivia's cheeks flushed. She reached out quickly, taking the paper back with a small smile. "He just likes the idea of you being important," she said. "You know how kids are." Lucas chuckled but noticed how she folded the drawing slowly and slipped it into her bag instead of tossing it away. That evening, after Jamie was asleep, Lucas found Olivia at the kitchen table. The room was dim except for the light above the stove, her fingers curled around a mug of tea, her gaze far away. He sat across from her. "I've been thinking," he said quietly. "You have experience, Olivia. You're smart, organized. I think you'd be great at the company. I could find something flexible. Part-time, maybe." She didn't answer right away. Then she looked at him with a sad smile. "I appreciate it, Lucas, but I can't." "Why not?" "Because it wouldn't feel like a real job. It would feel like a debt. Like something I didn't earn." He leaned back, surprised. "It's not charity. It's because I believe in you." "And that's exactly why I can't take it," she said. "I need to stand on my own, even if it's harder." He respected her answer, though it left a strange ache in his chest. Later that night, Lucas returned to the kitchen. Olivia was still there, staring out the window, lost in thought. "I need to say something," he said. She turned to him slowly. "I've had relationships over the years. Some that lasted, some that didn't, but none of them ever felt real. Not like it did with you. Since the day you left, I haven't truly loved anyone else. Not like I loved you." Her breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes but didn't fall. "You don't have to say anything," he added. But she did. "Lucas," she said softly. "I'm not that girl anymore. The one who laughed easily and dreamed big. I'm tired. I'm a mother. I've made mistakes. I've been left, lied to, broken." He moved to respond, but she shook her head. "It scares me, Lucas, because when I look at you, it feels safe again, and I don't know if I can trust that. I don't know if I can trust myself." She stood, cup in hand, and walked quietly down the hallway toward the guest room. Lucas remained at the table, the air thick with everything unsaid. He had opened his heart. She had opened her wounds. And somewhere in the middle of all that, something real had begun to stir. In the weeks that followed, a quiet rhythm began to form inside Lucas's home. He never pushed, never demanded anything from Olivia. He simply showed up. Whether it was helping Jamie with his reading, making Olivia tea when she looked tired, or giving them space when they needed it, Lucas was there, steady, present. Olivia found herself smiling more, laughing even. At first, it felt foreign, like trying on someone else's clothes. But each passing day made it feel like her own again. She cooked meals with Lucas. They took Jamie to the library and the park. Lucas let Jamie wear one of his ties to look like a real CEO. And Olivia had to hold back tears watching her son beam with pride. They weren't perfect, but something about it felt real. Olivia, who had lived in survival mode for so long, began to breathe, to trust, to hope. One crisp afternoon, she stood in the backyard hanging Jamie's tiny clothes on a line Lucas had installed just for her. The breeze danced through her hair. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to picture a future that was not gray and full of fear. She went inside to check on Jamie, who was building a fort in the living room with Lucas. The laughter echoing through the house made her heart swell. Just as she reached for her phone to take a photo, the doorbell rang. She opened the front door, still smiling, and froze. Standing there holding a wrinkled baseball cap in his hands was Derek. Her breath left her body. He looked thinner than she remembered. Older, worn, but the eyes were the same. Cold, calculating, far too familiar. "Hi, Liv," he said, his voice low. Her fingers tightened around the door frame. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to stay calm. "I've been thinking about you." "About the boy," he said, glancing past her shoulder. "I know I made mistakes, but I've changed. I've got a job. I want to see my son." She shook her head slowly, disoriented. "You don't get to show up and ask to play father." "I'm not here to fight," he replied. "I just want a chance. Please, Olivia, let me meet him. I deserve that much." Behind her, Lucas's voice floated from the hallway, calling Jamie to wash his hands for dinner. Olivia stepped outside and closed the door behind her. "He doesn't know you exist," she said, her voice trembling. "He doesn't need to. He has a right to know who I am," Derek snapped. "I'm his father." "You were never there. Not once. I raised him alone. I protected him." Derek's tone softened again, trying to manipulate her like he used to. "I just want to do the right thing now. That's all." She stared at him. Her mind raced. Jamie. Lucas. This fragile piece she had found. All of it could shatter in an instant. If Lucas sees you, if Jamie sees you. "They don't have to," Derek interrupted. "We can talk. Just you and me. Think about it, Olivia." He turned and walked away, disappearing down the quiet street. She stood frozen on the porch long after he was gone. Inside, laughter continued. Jamie was giggling. Lucas was pretending to be a clumsy pirate. But Olivia could not smile, because just when she had begun to believe in light again, the darkness she thought she had escaped had returned. And now it knew exactly where to find her. Olivia tried to ignore the sick feeling in her stomach for days after Derek showed up. She told herself he would disappear again like he always had. She had seen that face before, full of promises and empty remorse. He wasn't here for Jamie. He was here for something else. She could feel it. Then the first message arrived. It came late at night. She was in the laundry room folding clothes when her phone buzzed. "You owe me a second chance. If you don't want to lose your son, bring me 100 grand fast." Her fingers went cold. Her breath hitched. Another message followed. "Get it from your rich friend, the CEO. He won't even notice it's gone." Olivia stared at the screen, her heart pounding, her vision blurred. She deleted the messages, but they kept coming every day. More aggressive, more detailed. "You think you can hide behind him? I'll take you to court. I'll say you kept my son from me. They'll believe me. You have a soft life now. Let's see how long it lasts."